this is the first time you're speaking for London.
I think so. I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the beauty of having the virtual sessions, is because we could have these speakers from all over. So thank you so much again. And today, Markus is going to talk about self-service AI in Power BI Desktop, smart features for smart reports. I am really, really, really looking forward to the session. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite. It's a real pleasure to talk about my favorite tool from the past 2 or 3 years, I would say at least. And then I'm talking about the favorite features in my favorite tool. So this is really like for me, it's an enjoyable session. So I hope you will also enjoy it. So what is this about? So AI, I use a little bit as a catchword here because strictly I'm not speaking about AI in an academic way, but I think everything what makes our life easier in Power BI and in building reports or using the reports, that's what I'm summing up as AI here. So some of the thing is indeed machine learning, automatically driven or driven by yourself, because we can build our own machine learning models using, for example, R or Python. And some of the things are just automatically happen. So I'm not sure if they are based on a machine learning model or if this is like an if then else code part in Power BI. And I don't care. For the matter of this talk, I don't really care. As long as it's helping us in building reports faster and smarter, and also having like the end result, the end product also being smarter. And what I'm showing here is some of the things will be just driven in the graphical user interface in the GUI. So like you open a Power BI, then you click some things or enter a little bit, and that's it. And then you have this smart feature used. And some of the other things are involving scripts, like we can have scripts in DAX, in M, in R, and Python. Let's see how far we get. So for this talk, it's really hard for me to state what's the level of the talk, because some of the features I will demonstrate are just by clicking around. So this is doable for anybody. And some of the features involving like more advanced scripts, I will keep it on the easy side, but still it's scripts. And maybe not everybody's ever have written or have read a script in R and Python. But I will make it as easy as possible and hope that for everybody, no matter about your level, that you learn something new about Power BI and the functionalities here in this talk. So what are the features? When I started with this talk a couple of years ago, I almost could get through all of the features. But as it turned out, like Power BI is evolving and they're adding more and more features, and it's getting hard and harder to show everything. So I will not be able to show you everything. I do a whole workshop day on this feature, and even there I cannot go through every single thing. So I will just take a selection from those features. So what are the features? We have Q&A, the question answer feature, smart narratives, insights, analytic line, the key influence and the decomposition tree visual, a smart custom visuals, which we can add on, and the what if parameters, also a sort of a smart way of having interactivity in your report. Then, as mentioned, there's also the possibility to write a script, so you can write your own machine learning script in either DAX, R, or Python. And then we have Power Query, where we can then reach out, for example, to the cloud, reaching out to cognitive services, reaching out to Azure Machine Learning services, and having those smart features, column by example and web by example, which is also really nice to make it in a smart and easy way to enrich your model and load data into your model. As this is not a democratic way, I'm the speaker, so I will just choose things here. If you have any questions, please come up with the questions. We can have this very interactively. So if you're asking questions, you will guide me what kind of features and how I'm demonstrating that. If there's no questions, I will just listen to my own mood and show you things which I will think that they are funny and you can learn something from that. And that's it for the slides. So we go now to demo mode, and I will not return to the slides until the very end. The slide deck itself contains one single slide per feature just mentioned, with a link to the docs.microsoft.com page. So if you want to learn more about going more into depth in this feature, then you can use the slide deck and find out more about the features. But now let's go into demo mode. And where is my Power BI? Too many things open, obviously. Here we go. This is Power BI. So this is Power BI as you know it, I guess. And we can just close everything down here. What I prepared here, pre-prepared, is I have a model based on AdventureWorks, where I already like cleaned up the model and made some work there. But this is working with all of the models. And the first feature I want to demonstrate is because it's so easy to use, is the Q&A feature. So one way of coming up with the Q&A feature is either to find it somewhere in the insert or view. I think there's something, never use it up there. So there's the Q&A. I can include a Q&A in here, or I could reach out to the visuals. There's also a Q&A visual in there. Not sure if you ever used that one. I usually use it by just double clicking on the pane on the canvas. If you double click there, then we get this nice visual with a big input field here, which tells me ask a question about your data, and then I get some suggestions. Those are suggestions. It's a really hard word for a non-English speaker. Somebody's raising his or her hand. If you want to unmute yourself, then please ask your question.
I cannot see your screen. Are you sharing or not?
I'm sharing my screen, yes. Anybody else having troubles in seeing my screen?
I see your face in the video.
Yeah, if you click on his face, probably that will change to his screen.
Does this work for you?
Yes, we cannot able to see your screen.
We are able to.
We are looking your.
Okay. So the issue is obviously not on my side, which is calming me down here.
No, it's visible.
Yes,
I can see it.
showing up.
Okay, very good. So the Q&A feature, and then we get these suggestions automatically done by Power BI. So Power BI tries to analyze our data and then suggest some questions which they think that might be of interest for us, like top product categories by total product cost and so on and so forth. We can just ignore this, and that's why I'm using this feature so much, because I'm much faster with the Q&A feature than by finding things in the field list, because here I just start typing and asking for the sales amount. And if you're familiar with AdventureWorks, then you know the reseller sales amount is 80 million. So we can confirm this feature found automatically my measure sales amount and displaying it now. And it's not stopping there. I can continue and can asking for by category, for example. So we have a product category in this data model, and then it's changing the visual to a bar chart, because it makes sense to have categorical data in a bar chart. So it's also smart from this perspective. And very fast, we have now created a visual without finding anything here. So if the terms in your model, if you have good model and the model is using the business terms, people have a really nice life of finding things and asking questions through Q&A and building up the reports here. So we can change this to the normal visual. We can also, like, if I ask again for sales amount, I try to keep it very similar. There's a type in here, sales amount by promotion. So we do promotions. Some of the promotions are not really used, so we have no discount and other ones. I can also restrict and filter via this entry field. So if I ask for 2013, unfortunately, AdventureWorks is really old data, so the most recent data is from 2013. I can ask for 2013, and Q&A is smart enough to discover that 2013 is not a column, not a table, but it's the content of a column in my model. And so I can also apply filters in here. And if I convert this to a normal visual, we can even see that this filter on 2013 was added to my filters pane here. So this is really working. Another way of using this feature is by asking for sales amount by, I think it's a sales territory group, something like that, or the country. And in my model, I told Power BI that this is like an geographical information. So it's coming up with a map. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of maps like this. This is a really simple map. I would expect that everybody I'm communicating with, they know where North America or Europe is. Unfortunately, like Pacific, the region Pacific would be like cover Australia and something, but it's like pointing not even in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So this is a little bit disturbing. And the other, we have some regions where we don't know anything. So we don't know the regions. It's NA, not available or not applicable. And then it's like pointed into somewhere Nairobi or something like that. So that's why I don't really like those maps. But I demonstrate this because you can also change the visual here. So I can write the sales amount by sales territory as a bar chart, for example. So I get a bar chart in here. So I don't even have to know anything about the filters, the visuals, and the fields. When I know the terms I can use here. And for everybody understanding English, so I expect everybody of you understands English. If you can understand my pitch in English, you should also be able to understand the terms here used in the Q&A visual. It's really easy to use. So when I first saw this feature, I thought, yeah, this is nice for demonstrating, but who will use this in real life? And I use it constantly because I'm way faster in just typing in the names of the columns I need, and I convert this to a real visual. And the last one is like the sales amount by date, to demonstrate again that the feature is smart enough to discover that like date is a continuous data and then suggesting a line chart. So really on the nice and good side of visuals using this feature. So it's really easy to come up with the right visualization with the right terms and and building this in a fast way. So this is a way of building this fast. If we keep being with the sales amount by date, let's repeat this. And make it like half of the screen. Remove the filters in here. There's also a way the other way around. So what I also can do is not asking questions, but like present some of the visual and then ask Power BI, can you please sum this up for me? So I can point on one of the data points here and I can ask for a summarize. So what summarize does is now it's coming up with a text box, and the text box is filled with insights. And this is again artificial intelligence. So it's not something I trained the model for. It's just finding out about my model and the data in there, and then coming out automatically with this insight. Sales amount trended up, resulting in 600% increase between December 2010 and November 2013. So over 3 years, we had 600% increase. Really cool. Value average, blah, 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 sales amount increased, and everything which has like these green lines underneath means this is not hard-coded text, but as soon as my data changes, also this will react to the changes. So if I get new data in for December or November or anything in between, then this percentage number will automatically change. So this is the smart narrative feature, also really nice. And another thing is, if I'm not really know what kind of questions to ask, because Q&A, I have to have some knowledge about the data. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to ask any questions if I don't know that it makes sense to show the sales amount by date or by category, whatever. There's this feature, the insights feature. Again, if I right-click on one of the visuals, I can then ask for analyze and then explain the increase. Can you read this, or shall I use the zoom it? Is zoom it available? Yeah, zoom it is available, but it's not really working, so I will not ask you anymore if I should zoom in. So analyze, explain the increase. My increase because I clicked on a data point which is after one data point which is below. So this one is higher, the other one is lower. That's why it's offering me explain the increase. If I click on a data point like there, it will offer me to explain the decrease. But let's stick with this one because I know what to expect from here for my demo. So explain the increase. And that's coming up with a splash screen with this light bulb in here that takes some seconds, because now again, ad hoc, it's building a machine learning model for me. So there's nothing prepared by the product team or prepared by myself, but ad hoc now it's coming up with insights here. And we get not only one insight, but as you can see in the scroll bar, there's a long list of insights. I think about 10 or 8 insights are coming up every time you're asking this for. All of these insights make sense from a statistical perspective, as they are, now I lost the English term for that, significant. So this is it's always significant. It's never showing anything which is not significant from a statistic mathematical perspective. But if it's also significant in our life, in our business, Power BI cannot know. That's why we have to turn on our brains and look what it's offering here. So what we see here is it's coming up with a sales amount. So here's the analysis of the 58% increase in sales amount between December 2012 and January 2013. So 1 month. And it's coming up with sales amount by date. This is what I pre-selected here, and first name. That's the first thing it's suggesting. There's something happening, something significant with the first names. So it's telling me Ranjit, Linda, and Garrett accounted for the majority of the increase among first name, offsetting the decrease of Shu. The relative contribution made by Ranjit, Jay, and Shu changed the most. And that's what we see here. So we have Ranjit, we have Linda, we have Garrett. So we had an increase, a significant increase by sales amount by those 3 employees, those are salespersons. We had a decrease for Jay and Shu. On the whole, we had an increase from like 2.7 million to 4.2 million. and the rest is like covered and summarized in other. So this is not very interesting. That's what the feature thinks. The question here is this really relevant? And if I think about it, doesn't really make sense to take the first name. Maybe we have more than one person named Linda, and then all those Lindas are summed up here. So not one Linda is really significant, but we have like just many Lindas, all of them very average, but the only thing is that we have many of them, so they're summarized as Linda. So maybe that's not a good way of thinking about our data model. And the next thing is always the consequences. So maybe we can find cool insights which are true and which make sense, but we always have to ask ourselves, can we do anything about it? So maybe the model comes up with a cool insight, but we have no control over that. And maybe this is also true for the first name, because what can I do with this information? Shall we like prefer employees named Ranjit with first name? Maybe we should, maybe not. I doubt that there's like a connection between the first name and the performance of a salesperson. So I doubt that. The question is why it is coming up with first name. So I included this, of course, by intention to show you that you always have to be careful with those insights automatically coming up here. And it's coming up because first name is part of my model. So if I take a look at the fields here, we have the employees, and in the employees, I have the column first name. I am living in Austria, which is part of the European Union, so we have very strict general data protection regulations. So I really have to think about, does it even make sense to include analysis on like the names of my employees? Is this even allowed? Maybe, maybe not. But maybe I should just exclude this here. So we can just hide it here. That means that all the reports currently built on first name still will work. It's not deleted, it's still in the model, but it's hidden from the UI, and it's also hidden from Q&A and the insights feature. So now this disappears, and I can always like right click and then view hidden, and then it will appear again with like this eye symbol marked out. So if I now click on analyze again, explain the increase, now first name will not appear anymore because this is now hidden. Now it's coming up with gender. So by date and gender, M accounted for the majority of increase among gender. And maybe you're thinking like I'm thinking, when I saw this the first time, I thought, yeah, of course, if you have more male salespersons, of course, they have more sales on total. And of course, if the sales increases, also the sales per gender is an advantage for the males because there are more males. And of course, also the increase of sales is in favor of males then. But as I told you, it's only coming up if there's really a statistically significant thing happening here. And if you don't keep with the waterfall chart, but we can change it like to a scatter chart. I'm not sure when to use this one. So usually this does not give me any information, but there's also the ribbon chart and the 100% bar chart. So the 100% bar chart shows me now two bars with the same height because both of them showing 100%. And then we can see in December, we indeed had a majority of females. So the majority of sales was done by female salespersons, like 52%. And this changed in January to favor of the males. So something really changed here. Again, if we can do something about it, maybe we can ask our females and male salesperson what they did differently and then learn from that. Maybe this is a good insight. Then we can use that. We can then click like the thumbs up and thumbs down. This is not changing anything here in the model, not changing anything on your installation, but it's giving feedback back to the product group. But what we can do here is the plus symbol. So if I click here, then this chart is then added to my report. So I can now share this easily with my peers without asking them to do all the process of clicking and cleaning up the model. But I can build in new insights into my reports and save them inside of my report and share them over that. So no questions so far. So either nobody understands anything or everything is really, really clear. What do you say here? Power BI Premium only though? So Robert wrote Power BI Premium only. What are you referring to? Because all the features I'm demonstrating here in this talk are available in the free version of Power BI. For nothing here.
I think there's some conversation around hiding certain columns and preventing columns being exposed.
I see. Okay, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
Callum suggested the new OLS functionality.
Okay.
That was
Different
the question around premium. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I didn't say it, so I'll say it again. It's very important. Everything I'm demonstrating is available in the free version of Power BI. Do not need any pro license. You do not need any on a premium. Everybody of you can just install Power BI on your private computer and doing all the things and using all the features I'm demonstrating here. And this is really cool. And that's why I'm named this self-service AI. So this is available for everybody without any, there's nothing attached to it, no cost attached. Then let's continue on what we can do with, for example, sales amount by time, sales amount by date. Let's return to this one and get rid of this typo. It's a very common analysis that we want to see things changing over time, and you can see here Power BI, not Power BI, but AdventureWorks. This is fake data, as we can see here. The sales are really volatile. I'm not sure if there are companies out there with really having sales like that, but that's what we're having here for this demonstration. And if I look on those numbers, I get the impression that even it's really volatile, like going up and down again, on overall, we have a positive trend. So we end up like on average on higher numbers on this side of the line chart than we have on this. That's like a gut feeling. And I do not want to base my actions and decisions on gut feelings. So I would like have a better life if I could have a trend line. This is very easy in the visualizations. We have this extra analytics part in here, and there's a lot of things available. And the first one is the trend line. I can add a trend line, and this will exactly show me, yeah, I'm right with the gut feeling. We have an upwards trend over time in this data. So the good thing with this feature is it's really easy. You just click 2 times on the analytics pane, add a trend line, and that's it. Unfortunately, we cannot really change anything here. We don't even get the idea what kind of trend line was calculated here. So what kind of calculation was done here? How was this done? So this is easy to use, but very inflexible. And what we can do instead is, for example, if you're really brave, you could write an algorithm to calculate this trend line in DAX. And I'm not brave enough for doing that, but Daniel Maslik did, and I just used his script and added it to my model here. So simple regression line, and I added to the sales amount here, and then we see like the new line, the what is this, a dark blue line? There's some filtering happening here. What's the matter here? Sometimes like is this right or not? Simply, yeah. Okay, it's right. It's right. The green line is the simple regression line. Now, okay, everything is right. This green line, and it is exactly at the trend line. So obviously it's the same. So I have like now I know how this is calculated because I could replicate it, and therefore I can tell you this is simple linear regression line. So if you think back to school, I'm sure you heard something about functions and lines and things. And the simple linear regression line is ending up with a straight line. So there's like, there is this, now I'm liking the English terms again. Let's take a look on the formula. So we have in here, let's make this bigger. We have the intercept where the line is crossing the y-axis. That's the intercept. Can we make this a little bit bigger? Yeah, here we go. There's the intercept. So this is like the final formula, the intercept where the line is crossing the y-axis. And then for every day, we have a certain slope, like a positive slope going up or a negative slope with a downwards trend. So that's like what we need to calculate or draw a line like this. The question now is, how can we calculate the intercept and how can we calculate the slope? And there are some algorithms getting a very close idea of that. So there's a person, I think it's a person algorithm. So for example, for the intercept, we take the average of the y values and subtract the slope times the average of x values. Then again, what is the slope? Slope again is defined here. So this is a long DAX formula, and even if it's longer, so it's maybe more things to read, it's easier to read. So if you're new to DAX, maybe you're scared away by a long script and you're scared away by usage of variables. But to be honest, the variables are our friend here. So it's like to have modules and not have like one big formula which nobody can read and understand. We can like modulize the DAX code in here. And that's what's happening here. So the slope then again is calculated as the number of items times the sum of x times y minus blah, blah, blah. And then like the sum of x is then defined as the sum of x like here, whereas the sum of x is also a variable here. This is like the sum of all the x values over the whole actual values we have available for calculating that. And what's the actual? the actual is this one. So actual again is a variable, and this is just putting a filter over my data model, so the date and the sales amount. So we're calculating the sales amount at the trend line over the sales amount over dates. That's the basic idea here. So why would I even consider copy and pasting and try to understand what Daniel Moslik wrote here? I only would do that if I want to be more flexible, because the trend line, this analytic feature, only offers a straight line. I cannot like shrink it or like emphasize some of the parts. But with this whole formula, of course, we have all the freedom of changing the formula. So one thing we can use here is, for example, having the like this here. Like I only want to show it not for the whole term, but only for the last year. I want the trend line only have like an outlook for the last year. And that's what we can do by changing this filter in here. So I can change that the calculation is only done, so the result is only done for dates greater or equal than 1st of January of 2013. So the date function is making up a date, and I'm checking that the date for my trend line, so the trend line is only appearing for dates after 2013. And if you change this, and remove the trend line, the original trend line, then we can see now the green line is only showing up on. I screwed something up, obviously. So this is happening if you're doing live demos. Going here, and can I remove the trend line? No, I cannot, because an error in here. The simply screwed up the formula. So what I did wrong in here? We have like calculate. I need a comma. So the comma. Here did I? A bit embarrassing. No, just remove the calculator. I think we don't need this. We only need this one. Come on. What did I screw up here? So the filter is like this one. Then we have the distinct values, and then we have the date only for this, and that's what we're filtering on. Pardon?
Is there a semicolon after date missing?
After
Maybe.
date.
There's
Yeah, but
definitely
here.
No, it's not a semicolon. Sorry, a single quote missing somewhere. On the beginning of date
like
on that
here.
line.
Like here. Very. Thank you very much. It was James, I think. Was it James? Really bad in.
It was. Yeah. It's unusual for me to spot anything in DAX. So.
So let's see. Yeah, now it's working. Okay, it was just wrong copy pasting, and then we can remove like the original, like the dashed line is the original one. Then we can see now we get a trend line for all since 2013, and like as a simple forecast to see what if nothing changed in our business, like if everything changes this stays the same, then we will end up like with a very good outcast here. On the other hand, we could say, now if I only start this at 2013, why calculating over the whole period? Maybe we should also like limit the calculation base for the formula to the year 2013. So to only invoke the most common or the most recent data here. So we can also change this here, and I add the filter in here and remove the all selected. So recently I wrote more SQL again, so I'm using the dashes instead of the slashes. Let's see how this works out. And I think the news are really, really bad, because inside of 2013 we have a negative trend. Even again, if it's volatile, but on the whole we have a negative trend. So you only take a look on 2013 with a negative trend. And I think this also has a name, that if I use the whole period, like you have a trend in one direction, and I've just taken a part of the data and I have a negative one, I think that's the Simpsons paradoxon. So a mathematician, Simpsons, also already discovered this and described this, which is a really interesting way of looking things, that you should expect that like there's always an upwards trend, always a downwards trend, but of course in parts. So in every year we have a downwards trend, but on the overall, the last year is on a higher level than the first year, and that's why I have an upwards trend on average. So we can also continue here using the UI functionalities. So half of the time is gone. So what we also can add here, not only the trend line, we can also add where is it? For the, I think I have to remove the simple regression line here again. So get this working. There is also a way of having a forecast. Again, a very simple one. So we can add a forecast line, and then I can decide like I only want to have it for the next 6 months as a forecast. I do not ignore anything from the past to like put start like more in the past, like at the last data. The confidence interval is like how confident it is. The higher this interval, the broader like the gray area. And the seasonality, I do not depend on automatic, but I just tell it I have monthly data and expect that like my seasons are going over the months. So 1 year is like after 1 year the season starts again over with the similar shape I would have in the past. And then we get like this, something we would expect here. And this shape here, I would expect because I told it uses 12 months seasonality. And if we go back 12 months, we see that like this M-shaped pattern here. So my first name is Markus. That's maybe I spot an M rather easily. So this M-shaped pattern also was here in this period, and also is here in a very similar but different way. And that's what this model does. It discovers shapes in the past and applies the shapes to the future. And it doesn't just repeat the very same shape, but of course it's averaging on those shapes, and it discovered that there's an upward trend. That's why like this M is slightly positioned over the M here and over the M beginning here in 2012. So that's the whole story behind like time series predictions. So you try to find patterns in the past and apply it then to the future, to the unknown future. So there's also one way of doing this very easy. If there's time, then I will show you also how you can like parameterize that by using R or Python. But before we do that, let's look out to one feature I think is still in preview. So let's remove the forecast here again. Let's remove the forecast. There's also one feature called find anomalies. So I can find anomalies, again a very difficult word for me to pronunciate. Find anomalies in my data. So I can add this in here. And as my data is really volatile, so we have ups and downs. So for sensitivity of 70%, it expects that the value could be anything between in this gray ribbon in here. So and the blue and the green line is always inside of this gray shaped area. And that's why it didn't detect any anomalies. But if I increase the sensitivity, for example, I go up to, I think at 90%, it starts to show something. Then we get like some points, which are data points, which are outside of the expected range, the gray area. As you can see, the gray area would go down here and then go up there. And so this number is clearly outside of this gray ribbon, and that's why it's discovered as an anomaly. Again, this can help you to discover patterns if you have a lot of data, to discover your most interesting points. It doesn't mean that like this can decide about anything for you, but it gives you hints where something is different or not so expected or really unexpected. So this feature can point out things like that, and then this could be a starting point for yourself to discover more in your data and find out why this is like up there, why the algorithm is expected it like down there. And there's two outcomes. Either this is really anomaly, so there's something happened there for some reason, and we have to find out why this happened, or it could be like the sensitivity level is too high here. The anomaly detection just pointed out a wrong thing, so the expectation of the algorithm was just wrong. So there's always two outcomes here. But let's go back to the forecast. So if we want to do a forecast in a more flexible way, I can again create the same things here, sales amount by date. So it's easy to follow, I think, if I always show the same things. So this is a pattern we already know, and make a chart out of that. And what I can do here is I can make an R visual out of it, an R script visual. So if I click there, my visual itself is now empty because it's based on a script down there. If you want to use that, you have to have a local installation of R. So Power BI only offers you the R script visual, but doesn't know anything about R. So it's sending over the R code to your local R installation. This R installation or this the script is running there, returning a chart, and then Power BI shows this chart. So this is all the magic in here. And as you can see here, all those lines with the pound sign there, those are comments. So this is only a reminder. I can change anything in here or can delete this. This is not actual code, this is only comments. And Power BI is reminding me about the following code to create a data frame and remove duplicate rows is always executed and acts as a preamble for your script. So that means like Power BI, before it injects the data from Power BI into my script, it's building a data set, a data frame called data set. So if you ever read R, then you understand this completely. If you never, then just let me tell you that a data frame is nothing more than a table in Power BI. And this data frame consists of a date column and a sales amount column. Why those columns? Because those are the two columns I have used in my vision here. So this is clearly, there's a reference in between. And those data is then injected into my R script, and I can use it and refer to it under the name data set. In my R script, if I refer to data set, it's meaning that I'm referring to the data I got from Power BI. And this is the normal way of, I don't think Power BI really executes this, but this is the way Power BI works. If I like show one date and a sale, and there's more than one row with the same date, it will group by the date and only show the sum, the aggregated value of the sales amount. That's what Power BI always does. This is the way how Power BI, such Power BI works. But it's only a reminder, I never will get like not unique values because it's always aggregated as much as possible. And to have something in here, let me find my script. I do not want to really type my script because this could be really annoying having more typos in here. But the question is, where is my script? I'm not prepared, obviously. Let me find this, I think here in the then it should be somewhere here. Libraries are not really Python, not Python. I want the R. That's it. And I open this with my notepad and then find my forecast. Let's take this one. So long script, which I'm pasting in here. So again, this is what we get from Power BI, and this is one script leveraging the ARIMA, the average. Oh, I always forget it. How this is the long version. Integrated moving average, something like that. Self-tuning, something like that. So this is like also look to the past, trying to discover patterns in there, trends, and then use this as the forecast for my unknown data in the future. And in R, you can use libraries, and this is what makes R working so fun and so so nice, because there's a lots of libraries packages available which you can just download. You install this by writing install.packages and then pass in SU, and then we download from CRAN a repository, and you can use this library. The names are sometimes a little bit weird. So SU does not really tell you what this package does, or nobody would come to the idea that this is like related to machine learning. It looks like more a package showing you animals or something like that. And these packages are developed by volunteers, and lots of universities also using this. So if some of the academics discover a new way of optimizing machine learning algorithm, or they're coming up with a fancy new thing, there's a high probability that they will publish an R package for that. And then people like you and me can just use that with very easily. So I'm loading some of the packages in here. Then I'm preparing the data set. So even if, of course, all the preparation is usually done in Power Query, so all the data is already prepared when you load it into Power BI. Hopefully you're doing that. It still makes sense to prepare it for R. So for example, the date, how the data is stored, is different by default than I would than some of my packages would expect it. So I'm explicitly converted to the POSIX CT format. So because I found out that my plotting and the packages have it easier when I convert this data into this. And then I find out about my time series. So I'm creating a new data set, time series. This is based on my sales amount. I have to refer to the with the double quotes because there's a blank in there, and we start in the year 2011, and the frequency, so the monthly seasonality I expect is 12 months. That's what I expect from my data. That's what I'm telling here in this data frame. And then I'm using this data frame and passing it into the ARIMA functionality. One of the packages have actually implemented this algorithm. I'm passing in my new data frame with the data set, the start and the frequency. I can have order and seasonality. So those are typical parameters for the ARIMA, that things you can play around, passing in different values for the first, second, and third parameter for the order and seasonality. That's what I found pretty much useful for my use case. And then I predict. So the predict function is then using the model I just created in the step before. So ARIMA returns a data model, a machine learning, not a data model, a machine learning model. And I'm passing into the predict. And I ask for, please give me the prediction for the next 6 months. And then I combine everything together. So one thing, I have my my date column, transform it a little bit to a certain format, and I'm passing in my sales amount and my predicted sales amount, and then I merge it together again with my previous. So I have like the real data, the actual values, and the predicted values in one single data frame called dataset. And that's what I'm using for plotting. So the plot is then created with a function called ggplot. ggplot stands for grammar of graphics. So this is like a way of describing in English terms what I want from the graphic. And you're building up this plot in different layers. And that's very interesting way. And I really like this package. So this has its own grammar, I would say. So what we're doing here with the ggplot is not very typical for the other plot functionalities. Then I'm passing in my data set. Remember, the data set is the combined thing from the predicted values and the actual values. I'm asking for, as the aesthetics, I want to have date on the x-axis and the sales amount on the y-axis. I want to have a line and points in a certain color. So I think 3 is the green color. I then increase the text size for my theme to make it easier for you to read. I set then the continuous at the y-axis. I ask for a continuous, not a logarithmic scale, but a continuous scale, and limit it between 0 and 6 million. So if I change something in the prediction, that the axis stays the same and not the axis is changing. And then I again ask for a line and point, but this time not for the sales amount, but for the sales amount predicted. That's the value we got back from the ARIMA function when we did the prediction in a different color. No legend. And then I put labels on the axis. So on the x-axis, I want to have date, and on the y-axis, I want to have y. And that's it. And if you run this, now the script is executed, so it's sent over to R. R is then putting and training the model, building up the model, and then coming back with this visual, showing the green line is the actual values and the blue line is the ARIMA. A little bit difficult, a little bit similar to what we just have seen with the other package when we did the other forecast. Again, if you are fine with the forecast like that, like we can't really see the forecast again, then use the simple one. If you come to certain borders and you hit limits there, then you have always the way to like increase and put out the limits, and by using functions and scripts, like for example in R. So what about time? 12 minutes to go. The same would be possible in Python. I more use R, that's why I prefer this for the first example. So the same is available also for Python. You can also have R and Python running not only the visual, because having it running the visual means every time I show this visual, all the data is passed into the ARIMA model, the model is trained, and then I do the prediction. But maybe the values in the past will not change anyways. Or even if they change, I do not want to change my prediction, because I want to see how the prediction was when I made it like a month ago. So I want to see how this prediction works compared to the actual values. So I do not want to change the prediction, I want to change the model. We can also save the predicted values in our model by running an R script not in the visual, but in Power Query. So in Power Query, we have the possibility to have a data source or a transformation running R. And this is what I'm also doing in this demo here. So if I look, the first part is like the adventure works. That's very easy to understand. Everything is here. Then with the R integration, for example, for the ARIMA, let's take this one. I have as a data source, I have my date and my sales amount and an empty column for the predictions. No, I have everything here from my source. That's it. Then I remove the columns and so on and so forth, change the data type. So I end up with my date, the actual date, and the actual sales amount. And then, as you can see here, there's one step, run R script. So under, where is it? Under transform, we can have an R script as a step in here. And if you take a look on the script, this script is very, very similar to what I just did show you. So I have like, I reach out to prepare my data set in here. Then I load some libraries. I prepare the TS data frame with the sales amount, the start, and the frequency. I create the model. So everything is the same, except I do not have any call to ggplot, because in Power Query, I do not want to plot or draw anything. I just want to return the data frame. So I create a new data frame called output. And output is then what is returned to Power Query. So Power Query shows me then when the script is finished, when it's run, it shows me two data sets. One is the amfit df and one is the output. In the next step, I chose output and then renamed some of the columns, and that's what we're getting here. So now we're getting like the actual value, and as soon as the prediction is available, not for the old values, but for 2011 and forthcoming, we see all the predictions in here. And that's what we also can use then back in Power BI. So in my ARIMA, I can use in here. I think I turned this off. Yeah, let's see the hidden things. So this is our ARIMA. And in our ARIMA, again, I have the date, I have the sales, I have the prediction, and I can make, for example, a line chart out of that. So not this one, but just a normal line chart. So how difficult can it be? So for some reason, something in the prediction went wrong, obviously. So we have a really negative prediction. So I have to take care of that. But as you can see, like we can run a script in Power Query. That means the script is only running once when we refresh the data model. It's not running every time I show this visual. And this also means when I put in any filters in here, the prediction will stay the same, even if it's a little bit annoying now, pointing it downwards. So if I have like the calendar year in here, and put in a filter on that, slicer, and only show the values, for example, for 2013, then the prediction will be exactly the same, because the prediction is now pre-calculated during the data load. If I'm doing the very same in my visual where I have the R visual, this one, so I copy this over, make this a little bit smaller. And I change anything in my prediction here. Yeah, sync. What is it what I changed here? Not sure. This is still working, and the other one? Not working anymore. I cannot get any details, which is weird. If I remove the filter again, I cannot remove the filter. Ah, okay. This is such big. That's the reason for I cannot go there. And it's telling me attaching soup package. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Order seasonal. Ah, okay. If I limit this too much, then I need at least, I think, 2 years for making this happen. So if I increase to 2012, it works again. But this means like the prediction will change as my data also changes. So this is very important to know that like the visual always is depending on the filters applied on the visual. And if you do the machine learning inside of the visual, then the prediction will change according to the filters. This can be a good thing or a bad thing. Just important that you are aware of that. If you put the R script into Power Query, it's running during the load, so only on the data loaded. It's not influenced by any filters in my visual. The load will take longer, but the visual will be faster because the visual just shows data. It doesn't have to prepare anything. And I can even use like the predicted value and plot it also with R. So it doesn't mean that I can only use the R visuals for plotting things I calculate in R. We could also like put an R script on data. So visualizing data with an R script, which we created with a Python or something else script in Power Query. how much do I have left? So 4 minutes left. The last thing I want to show you before I conclude this and hand over to James, so not we're running out of time, is that in case you think our scripts are too complicated, there's always the idea that we can also reach out to cognitive services. So I'm used, for example, here the cognitive services to we see if this is working anonymously. Should work because I pass in an API key. So this cognitive service offers different things, and what I'm using here is I'm passing in descriptions and asking the cognitive services returning me key phrases. And you can use cognitive services for that. You can also use Azure Machine Learning for that. That means that because if I build R scripts and Python scripts in my report, it's good for me because I can use it there, but anybody else cannot use it. If they want to use it, I either have to copy and paste the script over there, or I reach out to cloud services like cognitive services and we use the same service, or I could build my own machine learning with the help of Azure Machine Learning and build up a model in the cloud, turn this with just a few mouse clicks. I'm not a developer, but even I can create a web service out of that. So you have your model, train it, and then convert your model into a trained model into a web service, which then can be called, for example, by Power BI, by Excel, by any web interface. And then you like have one model centralized in the cloud, and everybody else can use the same model. So they can use what you came up with as a model here. So apparently this is not running out very well here, the connect thing here. And in Azure, you can also, in the machine learning model, you can either use the pre-trained models there, or you could run your R Python script even in the cloud. So is this coming up or not? Hard to say, hard to tell. At least there's no error message. And as a source, I used here the product table with the product description and the names. And then I made use of some APIs. So the APIs are called here. These are Power Query scripts you can download from the cognitive services documentation. So it's not a script I came up with. And then you pass in the endpoint and the API key, as you can see here. You cannot see the whole API key because I try to keep this as a secret, because that's the key to use my service on my, like I have to pay for that. It's not very much, but if everybody of you would use my API key, that would be too much for me to pay. So that's why I'm not showing the full API key here. So I think it's not finishing. So I think I'm returning to James. Are there any questions?
There are some questions. I think someone's got their hand up, and I'll share a slide with the ones from the chat. Pragati, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, Markus. Thank you so much for this session. I mean, really good to see like AI versions using visuals in Power BI. I mean, it's amazing to see what you have shown today. I just have a question regarding using R script within Power BI. So like previously, I have used R script in Power BI to generate basic visuals, but like on a small data set. So, so like, what's your take on like, what's the performance of using R visuals, R script on a bigger data set? I mean, from performance point of view, is it like good approach to use it as a best practice, or we should avoid using R script with our larger data set?
So my point on R script is that using them as a self-service tool to just find out about your data, if you're able to write your R scripts, it's a cool thing. For enterprise environments, and I think if you're pointing out to huge data, maybe we both think about more enterprise environments. I would not use R scripts that much in Power BI because it's like a thing I can use, but sharing it out of this report to others, yeah, it's a copy-paste thing. This doesn't really scale. So in this case, I would try to have the R model then running like either on Azure Machine Learning, and you can even run your, if you have SQL Server installed on a box, you can also run your Python and R scripts there, that you like in your ETL process, the R script is then running as part of that, and then it's easier to scale and easier to make it fast, because for the end user, you just use it then, the pre-calculated data, which is way faster than having it run in the R script.
Okay, so basically, just to clarify that, I mean, are you talking about connecting the Azure Machine Learning Studio within Power BI to get those predictive results directly calculated within Azure?
Yeah.
And bringing them back into Power BI?
Yeah,
Okay.
this depends then on your internet connection, how fast this will be, how fast it is to send the data over and get returned the results.
Okay, and there's second question I have, the last one. So when you were showing about the QA feature, the visual, where we were interacting and getting insights like sales amount over time, sales amount by year, or by different customers. So is it like important to have your data set like in a proper structure to give users a better, better experience with Q&A visual? Because, for example, if in my data I don't have anything saying name or country, I just rename it as country_1 or country_new. So how will like Q&A visual behave from user point of view? So do you think like we should have data like in a proper way, which is like which can be easily understood by the users basically?
Fully agree. So the easiness of using Q&A depends on the easiness of your model. So if the model is not using the familiar terms your users will use, then it's really hard for them to find anything in Q&A. It's really important that you have familiar names, the business names, friendly names in there. So they just use the terms they're using. And you can also, I did not show that, you can also create synonyms. So sometimes people refer to sales amount and some other name it revenue, for example. And you can have synonyms, so you can train Q&A that revenue and sales amount is just the same thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I mean, thanks for the amazing session. That's it from my side.
There's a lot of questions. Sorry, I did not pay attention to any questions in here, so I should have reserved more time. Sorry.
No worries. Can you see those okay, Markus? If so, I'll let you run through them.
Okay, so we have Julie. Did you say you now have to create a visual to mimic what Insight alerted him in order to share what you learned from the Insights feature? I'm not sure about what this question is pointing out to. I'm not fully understanding.
Hi,
Hi, Julie.
Okay. Yeah. So when you were showing at the close to the beginning, when you were showing how you could right-click on a line graph and then click on the analysis or analyze.
Yeah.
Did you say then that if you got some insight, you wouldn't have a way to share it with anyone unless, I think you said then you'd have to sort of create your own visual to share that with someone?
No, it's the other way around. So like if you find something interesting in here, you can click on the plus symbol. Can you see my screen share? And if you click there, then this visual is then added to your report. So it's easy to share.
Yeah, I think I've taken over the screen. Sorry,
okay.
Markus.
Yeah, probably they won't see the screen.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, yeah.
But I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Markus. James gonna stop screen sharing, and I'm going to take it over.
Yeah, sorry. I thank you ever so much. I'm afraid I need to run. I've got a meeting I need to go to, but Prathi has hopefully got these same slides and will be able to take over sharing.
Probably. Can you
Not
see my
quite.
screen?
No. We can see a different screen. We can see the team screen. This wasn't quite as seamless as we'd planned. Sorry.
Oh, you see a different screen. Sorry. Okay, just a sec. Yeah, there you go. Can you see?
Yeah, now we're seeing the slides again.
All right, cool.
But in like really tiny font.
Yeah, let me zoom in. So, sorry, I'm showing it in the browser and because I was trying to get the latest.
Yeah, but
can you see it okay?
Yeah, I can see it now. So Prakati asked, how did you create a simple regression line? So there's different ways of creating a simple regression line. The easiest way is to use the analytics pane. So in Power BI, if you have a line chart, you have like the field section, the forward actions, and there's also analytic. And if you click on analytic, you can add, for example, a trend line, which is a simple linear regression line. If this fulfills your need, very good. If not, I did also show you how you can create this in DAX, which is like more experimental, because DAX is not a language for the proper language for doing machine learning. It's just showing you what's available there. And you can also, of course, reach out to R and Python. So what I did show you how is to create an ARIMA line, a forecast, but there's also lots of scripts out there which you can find. And even in my demo file, there's examples there how to show a linear regression line in R, which is then more flexible. So it depends on your needs. I think Endel also reached out to, yeah, this is like the DAX statement from Daniel, and left regression from views to, yeah, okay. So next one is, can Markus share the PBX? Yes, I will share you the PBX file and the slides. I will send it over to Prathi and she will share it with you, I guess.
Yep.
Through their services, but not through desktop. They need to enable a preview feature. No, the analyze, like the insights, should be available for you in all of the standard visuals. So this is also available in a bar chart, where you cannot ask for what increase or decrease, but where the distribution is different. So hello, maybe you can reach out to me and.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, Sasha.
I asked the question. So in Power BI desktop, I'm connecting to live connection back up to the service.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and that option is not available. So I was wondering if that was the reason.
That's the reason, yeah. Okay, depending on the data source. Yeah. And for live connection, unfortunately, this is not available.
I think most of the Q&A is not available with the live connection.
Is in preview, I think. So you can turn it out for the live connection, also for direct query. What's the state here? Let me just look this up. Turning on all the previews as much as possible to see the new stuff. Before features, Q&A for live connected. Yeah. Q&A for live connections is in preview. So you can turn this on if you have a live connection, if you trust the preview feature.
Thank you very much.
And then Callum, when it comes to forecasting, do you have any recommendations for how many data points you're comfortable forecasting in comparison to the number of data points in your plot? Yeah, I would say this is not so much about the data points, but most of the algorithms, as we have seen with the error message I faced, so all the time series forecasting, I think all they are limited to you have at least 2 years of actual values before you can do a forecast. And if you think how these algorithms work, it totally makes sense. Because if you only have the pattern of one single year, it's really hard to find a pattern. I mean, you're just replicating the year, and then the forecast would not be a forecast. You would just replicate the data and increase the numbers according to the trend. So this would not make so much sense. So it's not about how many data, how much data you have, but it's more about how much data for the past you have. So not how many data points per month or day you have, but do you have data for month and dates? And on the one hand, you need at least 2 years. On the other hand, if you feed the algorithm with data like 10 years old, like the past 10 years, the question here is like, was the business 10 years ago very similar enough to like the business and the market currently is, that it makes sense to depend your forecast for next year on data available from 10 years ago. So there's like a trade-off. Of course, the more data you have, the more trustful will be the algorithms. On the other hand, the business, the market, your organization, your products, everything will change maybe over time. So if you reach out too old data, it does not make so much sense to use this for forecast. Does this answer the question? And again, it's not about how much data you have. Usually I even compress it and aggregate it. So if I do monthly forecast, I compress the actual data and aggregate it by month to make the algorithms faster. Okay, Callum? Is Callum still here?
Yeah.
Yep, lovely, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So Brian, will the Power Query still run in the service? Power Query runs in the service, but for the R and Python scripts, very grateful for this question. I always forget about mentioning this. If you have R and Python scripts in the Power Query, not the visual, but if you use it in Power Query, you need an what's the name? Not the enterprise, but this the self-service, or is it the private, the personal gateway installed. So this is not working with the enterprise gateway. So again, this is a hint. This is like, these are features for self-service for yourself, but it's not really meant for running for whole enterprise. Everybody can now use that. If you want to use that, then take your scripts and put it on some server where it can run and can prepare the data. And in Power BI, you're just consuming the data instead of calculating the things. For the proof of concept, it could be cool enough to have everything in Power BI, because then you have the data there, you can shape the data, you can shape the script, and then like, doing your circles and cleaning up the data and running in circles until you're confident that this model is useful, and then you publish it to machine learning services, for example. And another question from Brian: with the R, does it depend on which libraries are available? Yeah, so with the standard way of R itself, I don't know if it really has so many machine learning algorithms. The really cool stuff is coming up with you using those libraries. And those libraries are available from CRAN. So this is the Comprehensive R Archive Network. That's the name for that. Most of the packages are published there. You could also write your own package and not publishing it there and hand it over to somebody else. This is possible, but most of the packages I would trust are coming from CRAN. The last time I looked it up was in November, and I think we hit like, was it 13,000? So 13,000 packages, each package having at least one algorithm, some of them several. So this is really a huge amount of things you have to dig through. So starting learning R, I would like limit myself and starting with some packages which are easy to learn, some packages which are have easy descriptions and documentations and stuff like that. And then if you hit the limit, then look for another package which solves your issues.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the clarification on the gateway is really, really useful. With Python, I think there are some Python scripts, if you use certain libraries, they will actually run natively in the cloud service, and not via the gateway, but actually natively in the service. I just didn't know whether R would run at all in the service.
Yeah, now I understand
okay.
your question. I think now I better understand your question. You're referring to like, if I have libraries used in my script, how can they run in the service?
Yes, and in Python, if you use certain ones, they work, and if you use others, they don't.
And the same is true at least for the R and Python visuals. So if you use certain libraries, please make sure that, and I think in my slide deck I have a link to that list, you cannot install packages in the service because you do not own the service. Microsoft is taking care of the R and Python libraries available in the service. So before you're writing your scripts, check out which kind of libraries are available. I think the list is like 500, 600 R libraries are available there. And also for the version, I discovered that like you have side effects. In one version, this is working like that, and the other version is like working like that. So make sure to mimic the same installation on your local computer. If you do not want to have any surprises when you publish then the report, it might be look differently or show error messages because the packages or the parameters not available in the functions you're using. So that's very important. Yeah. So what is this regression line? If it is V, is it possible to restrict? It should go in negative. No. Gore, Shishir, can you elaborate on the question?
Let me just present my scenario. The scenario is I have a trend line where I'm just calculating the number of defects which is getting closed on a daily basis, right? Mm-hmm. And now the request comes that I have to create a regression line. So I have created the same formula which you have implemented. I have implemented that same thing. Mm-hmm. And I have created for next 1.5 year, that is 12 plus 6, 18 months in future. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for next 11 months, the regression line was going in negative. It means I will be able to close my defects with the same trend, say after 11 months. But the moment it crosses 11 months, right, the regression line goes into negative on the x-axis. Mm-hmm. So it gives a, the chart becomes a little unusual, like weird, mm-hmm. because the regression line goes in the negative. So the requirement was, can we restrict that it should not go beyond 0? the regression line because there's a auto calculation, right, based on the average.
Yeah. Okay. So with the trend line built into Power BI into the product, we cannot limit anything. There's no parameter, no settings. It's just drawed, and we can just trust it, and we cannot influence it. If you build your trend line like with DAX or with R or with Python, of course you can, because you can then scan your data set and remove the negative values. So it's like sticking there or not showing any line.
Okay. Because even I tried to hide the trend line because it was a calculated field. So say calculated major. So I just try to restrict if it is going negative, say less than 0, it should not be displayed. But that did not work.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would do this as well. So like with the DAX measure I showed where we changed it, like limited to only showing for with start of 2013 or only into the future or something like that. You can also like change it there and limit the result to positive values.
Okay. So directly it's not possible, I mean, just by controlling from the DAX, right?
Yeah, DAX or R or Python, whatever you use for building a trend line, not with the analytic pane. The analytic features does not allow you any changes here.
The formula which you have even showed in the demo, that regression line, same formula implemented, but I was not able to restrict to negative values. So what I have done is that kind of workaround, restrict my future prediction for 1 year. So that way, my the trend line which is going negative, regression line, it restrict to 0 or say whatever -1. So that was the possible workaround I was able to. So I thought, because this is the time you have shared that scenario. So thanks for.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I think that's pretty much we have. There's quite a nice feedback in the comments. I think you could read. I request everyone, please provide the feedback. I added a form in the chat. We will pass it on to the speaker, and also we really appreciate the feedback. I mean, every speaker appreciates the feedback. So just a few things about, so all the recordings will be available on our YouTube. And once we get the files and whatever the references we get from the Markus, we will provide them in the description of the video. For the next session, in next month, we have Alex. He's going to talk about untruthful art. Just like Markus' session, I think Alex also provided me a few list of sessions, and I thought this is a really good session. It's and the same way with Alex as well. I think the untruthful art is like it's a really nice session. And the following month we have Chris Webb coming back. So this is going to be our another anniversary session. So every year, so we started our user group with Chris, and every year we try to get Chris, and touchwood, it's been happening. And in May, it's going to be 4th year since we started our London Power BI user group, and he's coming back, and he's going to talk about building reports in Excel on Power BI dataset. I think it's going to be really interesting. If I'm right, following Chris's tweets, he's going to talk about all those cube functions in Excel and the things around it. So yeah, please follow us on. Well, I'm still doing it. Zooming in, isn't it? Okay. So follow us all over the social network. But whenever the video is available, we usually tend to post it on the Twitter. So that's a good way to figure out when the video is available, and obviously on our user group. So on that note, thank you so much. It was like a really, really good session. I learned a lot, and I actually, because I've been doing other things behind the screens, like monitoring and things, I have to go back and watch the session again. But thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure was all mine. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
And you have a nice afternoon and a very nice weekend.
Yeah, you as well.
Hopefully we'll see you soon in person.
Hopefully. Yeah, in person. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
That's true. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for a great session. Bye. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.